Servus und guten Tag, Deutschstudenten. In diesem Video lernen wir folgendes: Pronomen im Dativ und Verben mit Dativobjekt. If you haven't watched the tutorial on the dative case yet, I recommend you do so first before viewing this. Also, beginnen wir. In the first two cases we've learned, nominative and accusative. We have reviewed the personal pronouns associated with each case. In dative, there are also specific personal pronouns for you to know, some of which you'll see are the same as they are in the accusative. Okay, mir, dir, ihnen, ihm, ihr, ihm, uns, euch, and ihnen. Note that there are two ihnens, one capitalized, that corresponds to the nominative pronoun sie, used in formal settings, and the other is lowercase, corresponding to the plural pronoun sie, used to represent they. Okay? This one is lowercase unless, of course, it stands at the beginning of a statement. Okay, we also have two ems, masculine him, and neuter it. In the dative case tutorial, we reviewed these statements that incorporate the subject ich, verb kaufe, an indirect dative object, and a direct accusative object. We're going to show how each of the indirect objects will be expressed as a dative pronoun. Okay? So, ich kaufe meinem Bruder den Pulli. Okay? Ich kaufe ihm den Pulli. Notice the word order does not change. We're just replacing meinem Bruder with the pronoun ihm. Essentially, I buy him a sweater. Let's look at these other examples. Okay. So ich kaufe meinem Kind das Buch. Since this is an example of a neuter indirect dative object, the dative pronoun will be the same as the masculine. Okay. Ich kaufe ihm das Buch. Now let's look at the feminine. Ich kaufe meiner Schwester die Jacke, which will be ich kaufe ihr die Jacke, when we use the pronoun. Okay, and now for a plural, ich kaufe meinen Eltern die Schuhe, ich kaufe ihnen die Schuhe. So you see, this is rather simple, just plugging in the dative pronoun to replace the full word. There's one thing to keep in mind, however. So what happens if we refer to the accusative direct object as a pronoun? Okay. We don't always have to call it by its name, just as we would in English. For instance, if my wife buys me a book, I could say meine Frau kauft mir ein Buch, or I could say my wife buys it for me, which would be meine Frau kauft es mir. Okay. Notice anything different about the word order in this example? So it's very similar to what we've seen already, but now since the direct object, the accusative, is referred to as a pronoun, or it now is placed before the dative indirect object, and not the other way around, regardless if the dative indirect object is expressed as its full identity or as a pronoun. Let's look at some examples in this table here. Okay. Thomas schenkt seiner Freundin ein Buch zum Geburtstag, for example. Now let's make the dative indirect object, seiner Freundin, a pronoun, and it reads as follows: Thomas schenkt ihr ein Buch zum Geburtstag. So taking this another step further, we now make the accusative direct object ein Buch and express it as a pronoun. Thomas schenkt es ihr zum Geburtstag. And a few additions here. Kann es seiner Freundin nicht persönlich geben. Okay. Kann es ihr schicken. So he can't give it to her personally, he can send it to her. Okay. So these slides have provided an overview of the dative and accusative objects and statements and what happens to word order. Okay. When they're used as pronouns. Remember, a good word order to follow is subject, nominative, verb, indirect object, dative, direct object, accusative. The only time we change the order between accusative And dative is when the accusative direct object is expressed as a pronoun. Then it will precede the dative indirect object. Let's look at the last example. Ich kaufe meinem Bruder den Pulli. Den Pulli as a pronoun would be ihn. Okay. Once the accusative direct object is referred to as a pronoun, the word order will change. Okay. Ich kaufe ihn meinem Bruder. If we refer to the dative indirect object as a pronoun, meinem Bruder or ihm, the word order will stay the same. Okay? Ich kaufe ihn ihm. So this may seem like a lot to absorb, but once you categorize everything and can distinguish the cases, articles, possessive adjectives, and pronouns, will be just fine. Now let's have a look at another dative component, the dative verbs. Okay. So in German there are several verbs that only take a dative object. They are antworten, danken, gehören, gratulieren, helfen. Okay. Gefallen, passen, and schmecken. Okay. Note that there are others, just these are some essentials, essential ones to know for now. Notice in these examples, for instance, warum antwortest du mir nicht? Or der Film gefällt mir, how the dative is used. Okay, in these, the personal pronoun is used. So viewed another way, I could say, warum antwortest du dem Mann nicht? Or warum antwortest du deiner Mutter or deinem Vater nicht? Also, der Film gefällt mir, aber er gefällt meinem Bruder nicht. Okay, and one last thing, when using gefallen, is that in German you may hear this statement starting with the dative itself. Mir gefällt der Film nicht. Even though the word order makes the sound odd, it's perfectly normal, and I'd even say perhaps even used more frequently. So, okay, that wraps up this edition of dative pronouns and verbs. Ich hoffe, es hat Ihnen gefallen. Lassen Sie mich wissen, ob Sie Fragen haben. Bis bald.